And that is no joke about the Gulf shrimp. So I cannot buy shrimp anywhere else anymore because I'm just always disappointed. The Gulf shrimp just has this like little, maybe subtle sweetness to it, man. That is just, it's so good. So with that, come on in. Yeah, food and supplements for men. Yeah, come on in. No, we're just getting going. Okay, yeah. Awesome intro. My big thing, the name of the lab, mitochondrial adrenergic nutrient utilization. The acronym for that is MENU, MENU, and I chose that because I care about how the food we eat impacts how our body functions. And so that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is how we can look at and utilize food as a way to achieve the goals we want, in this case, specifically as it comes to men's health and performance in the gym to the bedroom. So the topics we're going to cover today are items such as fitness, our muscle mass, our strength, right? Making sure we're healthy and mobile. And then also items like our libido and sexual health performance as well. And we're going to talk about different ways and strategies we can use to optimize those different items that are important to men's health. The benefits to you, if you are interested in having more energy for whatever you're doing, whether that's athletics or otherwise, just more endurance for playing with your family members or doing the things you love to do, the strength to make sure you're able to function and do what you need to do around the house or with your job, and overall just having a great quality of life. Being confident in who you are and who you are now and who you want to be, no matter where that is along the health and wellness continuum. The strategies we're going to talk about to optimizing those different areas are through three different items, right? One is we're going to set the foundation of nutrition and physical activities goals that you can make sure you have the sound basis to optimize these different areas. We'll talk about when you should maybe talk to your doctor and what you can say to get the best results in these different facets of health. And then finally, we'll move into dietary supplements. Yeah, come on in. Yeah, you're good. Grab a seat anywhere. We have another packed house, which is awesome. We'll talk about dietary supplements, what works, what doesn't, and what you may need to be careful for. So we're going to cover all those topics today. Now, as I was mentioning, for those of you that were in here earlier, I have a ton of slides to run through, but I am more than happy to stop and talk at any time. And whether it's on topic or off topic, I'm much more happy to talk about things as soon as they pop into all of your heads, and we can have a discussion about it, and I can jump back into the slides whenever I want. So we've got 45 minutes to go, and if I don't get through all of the slides, that's fine with me. That means we're talking about what you guys want to talk about. So at any time, jump in, interrupt me, and let's just keep going. I do tend to talk pretty quick because there's a lot in here, so feel free to throw hands up, or if I don't see you, just say something. Say, hey, Jake, we'll be good, all right? Okay, with that, I don't want to go too much into my background, but I will touch on a couple of the really cool things we do. The way my research works is I use what's called a clinical translational approach, which means we do, let me go back a little bit. We do human clinical research, so we do have volunteers come in and see how diet and nutrition can affect them. We look at cells in a petri dish, so this is a picture of skeletal muscle cells grown in a petri dish. We get these by having participants come in and we take a biopsy from their thigh muscle. We take something about the size of a pencil, we poke it in there, and we take muscle out about the size of an eraser, and we can then grow that on a petri dish. What that allows us to do is we can actually take the nutrients that you would eat throughout the day, and we can see what happens when we put them directly on the skeletal muscles to know what happens at the molecular level. And we can do that with dietary supplements and otherwise as well. So I think it's one of the cool things we do. And then we can also do with our clinical research, that's actually a picture of me, I know it's a little grainy, back in undergrad, but this procedure, we actually lay people down in a hospital bed and we infuse sugar and insulin into their body. And so we can see how the body functions when we perfectly manipulate what's going in. So this is how we have an understanding of how these different items like food and supplements impact not only the human, but the different areas like our skeletal muscle, which is so important to strength and mobility. This is the focus of my lab. I'm going to skip through this. I do want to let you know that I have research studies going on in both asthma and in individuals' breath. If we have time at the end, I'll jump back into this, but I'll skip through it for now so we can get into what you guys want to talk about. But why should you listen to me about these items? I am a clinical nutrition researcher. This is a topic area, but I do have experience as well. I played football through college up at Case Western in Cleveland, so I'm very familiar with nutrition for health, wellness, but also specifically athletic performance. I spent a couple years managing supplement retail stores in Cleveland, Ohio, General Nutrition Center, so I'm very familiar with the market and supplement retail. And then also finally, I do one-on-one nutrition counseling, dietetic practice, and so I'm very familiar talking with individuals one-on-one. So if you have specific questions, let's chat about it and let's just get a conversation going in here. So before we dive in, and the reason I want this to be so interactive is because we live in a ridiculous age of misinformation. Whether this is advertisements that you see on commercials on the television or on social media or thrown up on the internet, there's so much poor information out there. It is almost impossible to understand what's true and what's not. So there are no bad or dumb questions. I'm just going to throw this up here as an example. This is one of those advertisements that's out there that's working because they keep doing it and making money off it. But they're saying they can determine what specific fasting regimen someone should use according to the distance between their fingernails. I mean, ridiculous stuff, but this is the information that's out there. So please, at any point in time, let's just talk about it and have a conversation. So starting with the foundation, what are the nutrition and physical activity goals that you should use to make sure you have a sound, solid basis for your health and wellness goals, specifically as it pertains to men's health? For these different areas, we're going to start with items like fitness, muscle mass, and strength. You're going to want to have 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise every week. We'll talk about exactly what that is. But you're also going to want to focus on at least twice a week doing strength functioning exercises, right? Making sure you're working all the major muscle groups in your body. For nutrition, how many of you guys grew up on the My Pyramid? Or the food pyramid, I mean. Yeah, okay, yeah. Have you guys all converted over to MyPlate? Has that new information been out there? A little bit, maybe not too much. Some of it? Okay. So I like this a lot better. The My Pyramid was great in terms of like daily serving size, but MyPlate helps you understand what you need to eat at any given meal. So anytime you have a meal, you can think of it as kind of a circular plate. And within that meal, you want to make about half of that meal have fruits and vegetables, about a quarter of your meal be your grains, specifically your whole grain products. A quarter of that meal be your protein items like your meats, your seafood, and then have a serving of dairy in there as well, whether that's something like milk or yogurt or otherwise. Yeah.
So if you're a family, we're a bunch of guys here, but if you're a family, would that be the same plate, look the same for kids, for mom, for dad, for grandparents, for everybody?
Yeah, so you can use this same core concept across the age range. Now, everyone's going to have slightly different needs based on where they're at, and we'll talk about some specific ones for men's health and with aging that you'll want to modify here. But as a core concept, this is just a great sound basis to start. You're going to have all your key nutrients in there that you need, and you're going to have all your protein that you need, and your carbohydrates and your healthy fats, those sort of items. But we will get into specifics for different areas too. Yeah, and we will talk about what some of those shifts are, specifically as it pertains to maybe some of the protein sort of items as well. And yeah, we'll definitely get into that, and I'll get into it quickly right here on the next item. So, for men specifically, if you are interested in optimizing specifically your strength and muscle mass, you are going to want to focus on a higher protein diet than maybe our standard recommendations. I have some items, some numbers up there. Don't worry about that too much. We'll get into some ways that you can maybe hit the goals that you're going to want to need. But just know that within the MyPlate, you're going to want to focus on a higher protein diet. The other item to focus on is working towards maintaining a healthy body weight. Right? That doesn't mean everyone needs to get down to have, a skinny six-pack or anything like that. It's taking where you're at and moving towards a healthier body weight. This has important functions, not just for maintaining your mobility and strength over time, but some really good data came out this year showing that if you move towards a healthy body weight, for men specifically, it can help improve your testosterone levels, which is going to have a direct effect on your libido and your sexual health performance. So just moving towards a healthier body weight is going to move you in the right direction and have a positive impact on these hormones, specifically testosterone, that are specific to male performance in all these areas. So that's why we really want to focus on that too. And we'll talk about strategies on how to do that. So as I mentioned, the physical activity. Okay, we want about 30 minutes, 5 days a week of this moderate intensity physical activity. What does that mean? That means as you're being active, you want to use this talk test to figure out what your intensity is, especially if you don't have something like a heart rate monitor, right? If you're working out at a moderate intensity, this is something like a brisk walk or a light jog or doing different activities outside if you're playing in any sort of sports. Nothing at the competitive level, but if you're able to have a steady conversation while you're doing it, you're going to be in that moderate intensity range. If you're only able to have maybe a few words as you're going through that activity, like you're breathing heavy and you can't quite have a normal conversation, that's vigorous intensity. And the more intensity you have, all the better. But in terms of our goals, we want to make sure we're at least hitting this moderate intensity range. Importantly, for exercise, and I really want to stress this, something is always better than nothing. This is critical because often we find people go into these situations where, like, you know, I can't get to the gym for an hour, so I'm just not going to do anything today. Everything from taking a walk around the block to doing a couple push-ups to going up and down your stairs for 5 minutes, all of those items matter and have an important positive impact. The more often you can do them and the more active you can stay, the better you're going to be for maintaining your strength and physical function over time. So just always remember that. Anytime you can make a choice in the positive direction, you're having a good, solid impact. Okay, let's dive into MyPlate and talk a little bit about how to implement something like MyPlate at any given meal. And this works, you don't have to have a circular plate. This works if you're building something like a burrito at, you know, Chipotle or otherwise, or you have other dishes. Just envision what you have as sort of a plate and try and make half of that your fresh fruits and vegetables. A quarter of that your grains, quarter your protein, and then your serving of dairy. So for fruits and vegetables, I'm not going to talk through all these points, but I'll make a couple items clear. Whether it's frozen or fresh or canned fruits and vegetables, those are all great options. If you can focus on fresh, all the better, but make sure you know that the frozen and canned options are great as well. And any way you cook them is good. Just watch out for those fried options, right? Especially if you end up putting the breading on there. Try and stay away from those sort of items. What about when we talk about grains? Selecting items that are whole grains are going to have more nutrients in there, they're going to have more fiber, and they also have better benefits in terms of having more protein in them and otherwise. So if you're choosing grains, look for those whole grain items. This would be like your oatmeal, or if you're choosing breads, specifically selecting whole grain bread products from your bakery. Great ways to get whole grains in your diet. Specifically, you do want to limit those refined grain desserts and snacks, right? These are things like your potato chips, your cookies, those sort of items. What about your protein? Okay, what are ways to get your protein in? A serving of protein is going to be a piece of fish or chicken or meat about the size of the palm of your hand or a deck of cards, right? That's a solid serving of protein. That's going to be about 3 to 4 ounces of that. That's going to have a high quality amount of protein for you. I'll also add this in here. Focus on having fish or seafood about 3 times per week. Outside of the protein, fish and seafood have healthy fats, omega-3 fatty acids, that have additional benefits to your health. So try and focus on the fish and seafood 3 times per week as well. These are some great resources for you just to check out. Go to myplate.gov and you can find all sorts of items, everything we talked about, additional details. They have recipes, they have a way to reduce the cost of your grocery shopping, all ways to get these items on your plate and make sure you have that sound basis for nutrition for your goals. Now, for men specifically, I'm going to talk about some items that kind of go beyond our standard recommendations, and this is specifically as it pertains to the high protein diet. And I want to show you why I think this is important. I say this because if you just look at our guidelines right now, I want you to know I'm going to tell you something that's a little beyond that. So if you're someone that wants to stick and follow the guidelines, just know that what I'm saying here doesn't necessarily follow our current guidelines, but in my opinion, this is the best information we have, and that's why I want to share it with you today. The reason I want to share this with you is because as men, especially after we get in our 30s and beyond, we lose our muscle mass and strength almost no matter what over time, and we want to slow that loss. So I won't show you a lot of data and graphs today, but this one I think is important, so I'm going to sit back and just explain it for a quick second. So what this is a graph of someone's muscles cross-sectional area for a bunch of individuals. The muscle cross-sectional area is if you take something like your thigh and you kind of just chop it, and we look at, okay, how big is that muscle? The bigger it is, that's the more muscle mass you have, right? That's related to more strength, more ability, those items. As you can see here, when someone is younger, they have higher amounts, and then over time as they age, that gets lower and lower and lower and lower. And this progressive loss occurs and accelerates. So really when you get out here, that loss gets even faster. So what we really want to do is we want to maximize muscle mass when we're over here, and we want to minimize loss when we're down here. So we can maintain more mass, keep our mobility, keep our ability to function and do the things we want to do for as long as we can. This next image is that cross-sectional area that I was talking about. This is a young individual and this is an old individual. This is just a scan of that cross-section. So the dark area here is muscle tissue. That's the bone in the middle of your leg there, and then the white on the outside is your fat. But this is a young person, and you can see how much muscle mass there is in that range. And this red dot is just to superimpose this image on top of this one below. This is an older individual. And so you can look at that size difference. The entire area of the leg is within the size of the lean muscle mass of the younger individual. And so we really want to minimize that loss over time and maintain our functioning as long as we can. So that's why it's important. Additionally, and this is why activity is so important, what I showed you on that last slide is what we see in terms of that normal decline with aging. Like we're going to lose muscle mass and strength. That's going to happen. That loss gets even worse when there's levels of physical inactivity. This could be if you have to go in the hospital and are bedridden for a little while. This could even happen if you're sick for a couple weeks and you just don't walk as much. You lose an accelerated amount of muscle mass. So we need to use physical activity and nutrition strategies to really combat this decline so we don't end up in a situation where we can't do the things we want to do and move like we want to move over time. So how do we do that? And again, these are the items that are a little beyond our standard recommendations. Yeah?
So that decline, you're building muscle mass or you're losing muscle mass. Is that equilibrium between those two?
Yeah.
Right? So at the beginning, as you're growing, as you're a child, you're putting on muscle mass. You're not losing as much, right? So is it as you age, the amount you're losing is going faster, or you stop building, or what's going on there?
It's a little of both. It's a little of both. So many different changes happen from the younger situation to the older situation. When you're younger, generally you're eating more, or at least you're eating more of your protein. You're way more active. You're working those muscles. And so that balance between muscle gain and muscle loss is shifted towards the gain. As you get older, you move a little less. Your muscle doesn't focus on building muscle. You're eating less protein. There's also biological changes where even if you ate the same amount of protein, your body doesn't respond the same way. So when you're So testosterone plays a role in that as well, and we'll dive into that when we talk about maybe when is a good time to talk to your doctor and what signs and symptoms you may want to talk to them about. But testosterone plays a huge role in that. But there's other items just based on nutrition and physical activity. For example, when you eat a good dose of protein, when I say a good dose of protein, I mean what's on this next slide here, which is about 25 grams of protein. When you're younger, your body will use that and it'll build optimal amounts of muscle. When you're older, even if you eat that same amount of protein, your body won't build quite as much. So you need to eat a little more. So your body says, oh man, I need to build that muscle. And so by manipulating nutrition to accommodate where you're at in your life stage, for example, being a little older, that can help you minimize those normal losses that we see.
So women's bodies are designed to do a whole different set of things. How does that curve look for them?
I don't have the best knowledge to just compare them side by side. In general, because men have more muscle mass, you usually see a greater loss over time. So, but that may just because we're starting with a little more. So I don't know if it's necessarily, if you look at it a percentage, if it's any different, but I do know it just feels and looks more apparent with men because we start with higher levels of muscle mass. So that loss, especially when it gets accelerated, really just seems a lot larger. Percentage-wise, I'm really not sure. I'd have to look into it. But for men's health, man, we're trying to optimize it for sure. All right, so let's talk about how we can do that. I put some numbers up there about how much protein you should maybe aim for in a day, and I had your body weight times about 0.5 or 0.7. Anywhere in that range is good, right? So if you weigh 200 pounds, you just take 200 pounds times 0.5, and that's how many grams of protein you should eat in a day. If you're one of those people that likes to look at grams of protein in a food product, that's great. Here's maybe a more simpler way to do that. Is if you're eating food, assume that you're going to eat about 3 to 4 times a day. And we want to find ways to get about 25 grams of protein or more in each one of those meals. So now we're eating 3 to 4 times a day. We've got 25 grams or more in each one of those meals. Boom, right there, we're at 75 to 100 grams of protein or more. How do we do that? So if you're thinking, okay, what does that mean if I'm at the store and I need to buy something? About 3 ounces of meat, fish, poultry, dairy, and with a little bit of dairy in your whole grains, like in that MyPlate. As long as you have that combined with 3 ounces of meat, fish, and poultry, you'll get beyond that 25 grams of protein. So that's about the size of your palm or deck of cards in terms of those protein items. If you combine that with the rest of the MyPlate items, you will get beyond that level. So anytime you go to eat a meal, try and make sure you have that high quality protein source along with the other items, and that'll get you beyond that. Focus on doing that 3 to 4 times a day, and you'll hit those protein goals. Another way to do this, if you're out at a restaurant and you're having a serving something, ask them for an extra serving of meat, or Subway did a good job doing their advertisement for that. Say double the protein. Easy way to do that if you're eating out. If you have trouble getting these amounts of protein in, especially for breakfast is often the lowest protein meal of the day. Consider something like a meal replacement or supplement. Some of the best products out there are the clinical grade ones we use to feed individuals in the hospital. These are like Ensure. Those have good amounts of protein. Look for the high protein version or even Max. Ensure Max has 30 grams of protein right in it. So if you're someone that normally just has maybe a piece of toast for breakfast, toast has maybe a couple grams of protein at best. If it's a whole grain piece of toast, you maybe got about 5 grams. Nowhere near that 25 plus grams. Having something like a meal supplement is a great way to do it.
What's an egg have?
An egg has about 7 grams per egg. So if you're someone that eats maybe 3-ish eggs and some toast, now you're right in that perfect range. Have a glass of milk with it, all the better. Muscle milk's a decent one. I tend to prefer the protein supplements that also have vitamins and minerals in there. Those are going to be items like your meal replacements, like those clinical grade ones, anything by Abbott or Nestle. Muscle milk is solid for protein, and if that's a way you want to get in, if the rest of your diet follows that MyPlate and you get your micronutrients in, right, all your fruits, vegetables, muscle milk's great. I'm preferential towards items that have them built into the meals, but it's a great option. There's something in the back?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I've noticed that the Ensures and the Boost type stuff have a lot of sugar in it.
Mm-hmm.
About, like, I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say it's over 20 grams of sugar versus the muscle milks and the Premier proteins and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Flat.
Yeah, so I would say that depends very much on the specific product. So that's a great point, because if you just go to the store and you just grab a random Ensure or Boost or whatever, some of them are designed for weight gain. Some of them are designed to make sure people get tons of energy in. And to get energy in your body, sometimes having things like sugar makes them taste better. So for those situations, the fact that it's sugar isn't necessarily unhealthy, because the person needs to eat more. In this situation where we're maybe trying to focus on muscle mass or maintaining a healthier body weight, you're right, we don't want to have a ton of calories or tons of sugar. Focusing on the products that are shifted towards specific ones that are like the Max version are the way to go. The way I would look at it is, if you look at any nutritional supplement that's a protein shake, and you can get about 20 to 30 grams of protein in about 200 to 300 calories, you're pretty good. Some of those items you're talking about are going to have like less than 10 grams of protein and 400 calories. And so that is what you want to watch out for. Yeah.
Since I exercise in the morning, should I have the breakfast before I exercise or after I exercise?
Great question. I would say that depends most on if you're able to perform the way you want to perform with your exercise and you don't have any stomach discomfort. Whatever works better for you. Personally, I like working out when I am optimally fueled, so I always eat beforehand. Not everyone likes to, especially if people like running. I don't know if you can tell, I don't like running at all. right? Like I'll hang out in the gym all day, but I'm not going running. That's a little easier than maybe someone that's going to go run for a while. Probably don't want too much in your stomach. So it's very dependent on your personal needs. In terms of your muscle mass, does it make a difference? Not too much. So as long as you get your nutrition in and get about those 3 to 4 meals a day with that high protein, you're going to be fine. The specific timing isn't going to make too big of a difference. Now, if we're talking about something like an elite athlete that's trying to optimize every little bit and have every little gain, then maybe we need to look a little more deeply. But for 99.9% of the situations, it's not going to matter. Good question, though.
What about something like peanut butter powder, PB powder?
Yeah, so any of those powders I would treat all kind of the same way, where you want to look at it and make sure, okay, is this something where I'm getting the amount of protein I need within the total amount of calories I need? And if it's something like the peanut butter powder, they have like pea protein and otherwise, it's all fine as long as you're kind of getting the nutrients you need. Yeah, so just take a look at that supplement label and see if it's fitting in your goals, especially if you're someone that likes to count those grams and whatnot.
You didn't mention any vegetarian options for getting protein.
Yeah, so it's a little tougher to hit it within your calorie goals, but that's going to be your soy products, your beans, your lentils. They have a lot of powders that are specific to vegetarians as well now, where you can really get good supplements that way. But yeah, there are a ton of good options, but that's again focusing on your beans, your soy-based items. Now they have all those soy-based products that taste like the meats anyway, so the options out there are getting really good. But yeah, it's going to be making sure you look at what those products are, and it's usually going to be your beans and your soys. Cool. I'm loving this, guys, so please keep interrupting me and chatting. Let's keep it going. I love it. Oh, okay, yes, the other item. And this goes to that graph I showed you where when you're inactive, the muscle loss just happens. You really got to focus on staying active, especially in those situations where you don't want to. If you want to make sure you're not losing that muscle, you really got to force it and move. And any movement is better than nothing, right? If you can go up and down your stairs, if you can do sit up and down, get up and down out of your chair 10 times, right? Or do it for 5 minutes straight. All of that is moving muscles, and all of that is making sure your body's staying active. All beneficial. Okay, so this is about maintaining a healthy body weight. This is an interview I did. Let's see, we got maybe 15 minutes here. I'm gonna skip through this and just highlight a couple things that I feel are very important when trying to maintain healthy body weight for life, right? You want to get towards a healthy body weight and keep that. A couple items I want to highlight. One, really modify your mindset. I think it's really common to get in this scenario where you focus on, okay, I'm on a diet, I'm off a diet, I'm looking at a goal for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months, whatever. Understand that body weight is going to be something that you're dealing with forever, whether you're at a low body weight or a high body weight. So really change that mindset and know that every decision you make can be moving you in the right direction. So just change that mindset in terms of thinking long-term instead of short-term. Welcome weight awareness. You got to get on the scale and you got to monitor your body weight. It's the only way we can really know how we're doing. You don't want to get in a scenario where months go by or years go by and you've gained 20, 30 pounds and you don't know about it, or you've lost 20, 30 pounds and you don't know about it, because that's something you'd want to talk to your doctor about. The only way we can know is if we're on the right path is if we have those numbers. So just make sure you jump on the scale about once a week and just keep that number in mind and know if you're heading in the right direction. Okay, yep. They're fine. I'm a fan of just looking at the number. There's going to be a lot of variability. So they can estimate what your body fat percentage is, but they're not going to be very accurate. So don't use that to dictate your training regimens or your nutrition. But if you're just generally interested in roughly what your body fat is, they can do okay. But don't use that as a way to kind of direct where you want to go. They're getting better and better every year, but they're not perfect. Now, if you do want body composition testing, this is not necessarily a promo, but Pennington does it here, right? You can come in there and say, hey, I'm interested in having my body composition tested. We'll bring you in, we'll put you on a scanner, and you can see almost exactly how much fat you have on your body, muscle you have on your body, bone density, and then you can figure out how you want to adjust your nutrition to go from there. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You'll probably have to schedule it. So Don't assume that you can walk in and do it the same day. My apologies. Thank you, Kathy. That was a good one. A lot of people would have got disappointed there. But we do have pay for service where you can do that. But yeah, you'll need to schedule it. Usually they can get you in about 2 weeks. But yeah, it won't just be walk in and do it. Okay, I'm going to skip through this just to say that if you need to talk to an expert about nutrition, registered dietitians are who you want to contact, right? These are the people that have the food and nutrition expertise to fit your needs. If you need to find one, go to eatright.org. This is a website built by dietitians, and it has all sorts of information on here. Articles about eating affordably, sustainable eating, right? Fueling your workout, all sorts of these items, right? They have it for food, health, fitness. They have it for us, kids, parents, women, all sorts of information. You can also click a button on there and find someone locally here in Baton Rouge that you can work with that's a registered dietitian. So for personalized health and wellness goals, don't jump on TikTok. I know some of you older folks really love TikTok. Make sure you find a dietitian and work with them. You can do that at eatright.org. Okay, so that's the basis of exercise and nutrition to set our foundation. When are items we may want to talk to our doctor, and what should we say to them to focus on these strength goals? We talked about lifestyle. If you're struggling with it, ask your doctor for a referral to a dietitian. For some reasons, you can even get that covered by your insurance. Another option, especially when it comes to body weight management, the medications we have these days for the treatment of individuals with struggling with body weight and obesity are outstanding. We are in a groundbreaking time for how good our medications are. So if you're struggling, talk with your doctor. Specifically, these are a little expensive. If you talk to your doctor about items like diabetes, you may be able to get these items covered by your insurance. And one of the beautiful side effects of them helping with these other items is that they will also help you control your body weight. So have conversations with your doctors about it. For some, yeah, go ahead.
I want to say with Wegovy, which is Ozempic for diabetics, you can show you got diabetes. Most doctors will prescribe Ozempic for it, and insurance will cover it if you got diabetes. Because I used Ozempic and lost about 50 pounds, and that was on top of controlling my sugar, which is the main purpose for taking it.
Yeah.
And it's only a shot once a week as opposed to taking insulin 2 times a day or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's exactly the point is these medications are getting so good. If you're struggling, talk to your doctor. They are outstanding. For some people, you may need to consider metabolic and bariatric surgery. These procedures are getting outstandingly safe and efficient. They are extremely effective, not just for body weight regulation, but for helping with items like diabetes, mobility, certainly overall health and well-being. It often takes a long time to make this happen. So the sooner you start these conversations, the better. So make sure if you're struggling with body weight, talk to your doctor. We have a ton of great options now that we didn't have a decade ago. What about sexual health? Concerns to bring to your physician. And again, if you don't talk to them about it, they don't know how to help you. The medications we have and the therapies we have are really great. If you have less energy, motivation to exercise, you notice your strength is down, maybe you just have a poor mood, you have a lower sense of well-being, you just don't feel as good, reduce sexual desire, reduce quality or sustainability of your erections, or you don't have them when you wake up in the morning, bring that to your doctor. The medications that you may look at or ask about, testosterone replacement therapy, that's that major hormone we talked about that helps things everywhere from strength to the sexual health or other items that help with blood flow. Got to talk to your doctor. We have great options out there. Now, if you're someone that doesn't like taking the prescription medications, we already talked about what you can do from a nutrition standpoint and an exercise activity standpoint to help these items. What about if you're interested in supplements? First thing, talk to your physician about this too. If you want to use a supplement, many of them interact with medications, so make sure you chat with your physician if you're thinking about taking a supplement for different purposes. I'm going to run through some of the concerns about this and some of my favorite ones, but make sure you bring that up with your physician. So, with the supplements, what works, what doesn't, and what do we need to watch out for? I'm not going to run through this too much. I'll skip through here. Essentially, what this is saying is that supplements are not well regulated. In fact, they're barely regulated at all. Companies can say what they want on the label, and they can really put what they want in it without anyone knowing for a long period of time. There are many situations where a new supplement will come out on the market and it'll say, gain 10 pounds of muscle, lose 10 pounds of fat, do it all in 10 days. And that supplement will be contaminated with illegal items, anabolic agents. You can have amphetamines in there. This has happened multiple times. And we don't know until something really detrimental happens. Someone dies from taking the supplement. They have liver damage. They have a cardiac event. And then the FDA comes in and says, oh man, we got to get that supplement off the market. But many people already took it and the company already made millions. So you've got to be careful when it comes to supplements. And they're super common. I'm going to skip past through these guys. Okay. Point here, the FDA doesn't approve them. It doesn't approve the efficacy, which means it doesn't say the effectiveness of the product, what it says on the label. That doesn't have to be approved. And the safety of what's in there doesn't have to be approved. They can help regulate it if there's an issue, but oftentimes we just don't know about it. And you could have those contaminants and mislabeling and often unsafe ingredients. So this is an example of some items that you may want to be concerned about that often show up in supplements. A lot of them interact with the potency of medications. This is just a quick list. Again, make sure if you're considering anything, talk to your physician about it. They'll have a much more detailed list. Okay, what supplements could potentially have efficacy concerns? Which ones might not do what they say they're going to do? Almost all of them. Almost all of them. It's a major issue. So what are we supposed to do? Like, I'm a big supplement fan. As I mentioned, I worked in retail. So what do you do if you're interested in a supplement? One, make sure it's safe. I'll show you a couple website resources. But two, whatever you want to take that supplement for, you have to kind of be your own scientist. If you're interested in a supplement for energy, you need to just create a log. And you need to have a piece of paper and say for a week, right? Give yourself an energy rating from just 1 to 10, make your own system, say, okay, I'm not taking the supplement, what's my energy rating every day? And then start taking the supplement and then do the same thing. Did this supplement help improve my energy? And that's how you can tell if the supplement is working for you. Especially because everyone is so different, a supplement that you take or that you take or that I take may all function differently. So if you're interested in dietary supplements, the best way to do it is trial and error. And if you don't write it down and log it, you really can't know. So that's the best way to kind of test it out. In terms of supplement information, you're not going to be able to write this down, but if you Google Office of Dietary Supplements, tons and tons of fact sheets and information about almost every type of supplement on the market. Not every individual supplement, but every type. So ODS, make sure you look for that. There's also these. Okay. These are third-party verifications that test supplements and say, hey, what they say on their label is actually in the product. So if you're interested in supplement safety, look for these items. USP is probably the most common. If you have that on there, you know a third party has tested it and verified that what's in there is in there. Also focus on larger companies. Smaller companies are less likely to be regulated. The really big ones are going to have more regulations behind them. So just keep that in mind as you're buying supplements. Okay, one more, OPSS. You can search them, opss.org. This is a quick 7-point checklist where you can test any supplement you have to see if it's likely to be safe. So you can go to opss.org and they'll ask you these really simple questions about your supplement. I'm just going to run through them here. And you just answer yes, no's about all these different items, and it'll give you a good indication of whether your supplement is safe. Okay, so with that, what do I like in terms of nutritional supplements? These are kind of my top ones. Okay, if you think you may have a suboptimal diet, you're not using that MyPlate at each one of your meals, right? You're maybe not consuming your fresh fruits and vegetables and all that. Taking something like a multivitamin and omega-3 fish oil, make sure you fill in any gaps that you may be missing if you don't kind of have a well-rounded diet. We talked about where protein and meal replacement beverages could be beneficial. Vitamin D is a big one. If you're tested by your doctor, that would be a good one to take. Yep.
Okay, just on the fish oil, how do you really know whether you're getting the right amount of EPA and DHA? Because you don't know the company, they can put whatever they want on the label.
Look for those USPA certifications, and the more popular companies will have a breakdown of how much EPA and DHA is in there.
How do you know that's true?
When they have the third-party certification, that means they've been tested and have been verified that what they say on the label is in there. That's what those stamps mean. So if you go back and look at those third-party verification, those 4 stamps, if you see that on the label, that's going to put you in a good spot to say, hey, what's on there is likely in the label. So that's the best way to know. 5 minutes, okay, perfect. Okay, 4, strength and muscle mass. The best supplement we have out there is creatine. This has been around since the 90s. It has not changed much since the 90s. So the majority of creatine products you see out there are all gonna function about the same way. The classic powder form is the cheapest, and it's going to work just as well as some of the other items like pills. We were talking about the effectiveness of pills. The pills work great too. It's kind of personal preference on which one you want, but in terms of your strength, if you're someone and you supplement with creatine, 5 years from now, you're probably just going to have more strength and muscle mass if you took creatine than if you didn't. Like, that's how good it is. In terms of energy, especially if you're working out, caffeine is really the best one, whether that's from your cup of coffee or a dietary supplement. Don't have more than about 200 milligrams in a given dose. That tends to be a little too high, but that's what you want to aim for. So, sexual health, what do we have out there? Tribulus has the best evidence on it, but it's really modest. And also, this is one of the supplements, because it's really popular, that is often heavily adulterated. So make sure you're looking for those third-party verification labels, but this is one of the ones that may help sexual health. The only way to know is, again, trial and error for yourself. Citrulline is something that helps with blood flow, which would be the supplement version of the Viagra comparison. The medications are going to be the strongest, but if you're not into medications, this is something that has the best evidence for potentially helping. Okay.
Question about that?
Yeah.
What about arginine? You mentioned citrulline. What about arginine?
Citrulline is kind of the newer version of what we thought arginine was going to do a while ago. So citrulline really does what we thought arginine would. Arginine's a little outdated. Yeah, so I would say if you're an arginine fan, move over to citrulline. You'll be happy with it. Yep.
So two folks I know ran through 45 days of walking, they took Optavia, and they both lost weight. Like, man, what do y'all do? And I just had them text, what is the story of Optavia? 'Cause I'm a living witness, I've seen some folks that look like, you know.
Since we got 2 minutes, let me finish this and hang out for a second. I'll Google it and I'll check out what it is because I'm not familiar with it, but I will look it up and we'll take a peek. Okay, so the big thing is you got to be your own scientist with this. Make sure it's safe, and then if you're trying to supplement for a goal, make sure you record it and see if it's working for you. Okay, overall takeaways. All right, let's go back to the top. Okay, our foundation, our nutrition and activity. Takeaway, don't overcomplicate it. Like, all those old adages work, right? You are what you eat. Right, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. If you don't use it, you lose it. Those sort of things. I have one that I like. It's eat your meat to stay on your feet. Right, eat your protein so you keep your strength and mobility. But those all work. Medical support. Communicate with your physician. Talk to your doctors. If you don't talk to them, they don't know how to help you. And every year we have new options to help with different issues. And supplements. Be safe. Be skeptical. Be your own scientist, right? Make sure you are being safe and monitor. Okay, with that, thank you. I'm happy to chat more. I loved how this was a conversation all the way through. We're ending with 30 seconds, but I'm more than happy to hang out. And if you're interested in research on asthma or a breath study, check it out there. Oh, perfect. And feel free to email me. I love talking about this stuff, by the way. I'll get to your question in 1 second. I'm happy to chat at any time. Email me, hit me up on Twitter. I'm good to talk about it.